Okay, what's up, guys? So, a lot has been said about Max Kellerman from Stephen A. Smith after his departure from First Take a few years ago. If you recall, Stephen A. went on some sort of tour promoting his book and talking crazy about Max, saying that he didn't want him and that First Take could have done much better. Basically, he was taking pot shots at his former ESPN colleague even when the show was smashing the sports media ratings. Like, I remember Stephen A. Smith going on The Breakfast Club, All the Smoke podcast, Flagrant 2 with Andrew Schultz, and just talking about Max and his exit from the show constantly. And during this time, Max didn't say a peep. He practically disappeared off the face of the earth after he got cut from ESPN. This guy went from being everywhere on the network to literally falling off the face of the earth next. And I think it's partly due to his contract because he was still under contract by ESPN and getting paid by them, so he probably couldn't speak a whole lot on the matter. That said, Max is now back in the media. He recently covered the Canelo-Bud Crawford fight and now is popping up everywhere after his ESPN contract expired. And on top of that, he was recently on the Bill Simmons podcast where he was interviewed by his former colleague and he finally broke his silence on Stephen A. Smith and First Take. So this was a pretty crazy interview because Max actually shares a lot about the behind the scenes of the show and his then relationship with Stephen A. And this is a relationship that from the audience's perspective quickly turned sour after T.O. called out Stephen A. and basically said that Max was blacker than him.
Mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here, and like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming.
Max has always been very liberal from what I can tell and has always endeared himself to the black community more so than Stephen A. Smith. And there were rumors that the latter just did not like that because he was constantly being criticized by his own community on certain issues where Max mostly stood with the culture. Anyways, listen to what Max said during this interview.
It's interesting because Stephen A. was the one partner I've ever had over like years.
Yeah.
Where I didn't feel like a relationship was really forming. And I like to go to work and you know.
You could feel a little bit watching it. And it was hard to tell how much of it was theater and how much of it was like, oh, these guys just don't get along in the same way or
whatever you feel about who you're working with and what the situation is. To me, a cardinal sin is betraying that on the air. You should always be thinking about making the show entertaining.
Right.
And I do think it reached the point on that show where it was like, come on, dude, we get the first priority is to make good TV.
Well, good TV is like professional wrestling, right?
Right.
Both guys have moves. You guess so the other guys move.
Of course.
And I think we've all been in situations who've done this where you're with somebody or on a bigger show where people either selling your moves or they're not.
Right. Exactly right. But he's a showman. Like he would. I never had to worry about when the little red light came on that it wouldn't be a show, but it would be like you don't want to be undermined. You know.
Is that a fun show to do? Like, did you like doing? What was it? 2 hours a day of just 5 days a week of having to react and just be like prisoner of the moment stuff?
The issue with that show is this. What is a hot take? A hot take is a counterintuitive conclusion that on TV, you're going to just state your conclusion. You do analysis about a subject. You come to a conclusion that's counterintuitive. So when you say it, people will be like, what are you talking about? Give me 90 seconds. I'll explain it to you. Oh, at least he has a point of view. If there are 12 topics a day and you have 12 hot takes on those topics, because by and large, there's a consensus about sports. This guy's good. This guy's not as good. Whatever it is. This team is in the right direction, the wrong direction. Whatever it is. The consensus is usually correct, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, some small percentage of the time, in fact, what everyone thinks is not true. If you have a counterintuitive conclusion about every topic in sports every day, you are insane. Like, Skip Bayless is very entertaining, and I always enjoy my interactions with him privately.
Yeah.
He's insane, right? Like, you have 12 hot takes a day? Unbelievable, right?
Right.
You've come to 12 conclusions that go against the consensus every single day that you're going to... But Stephen A. has no hot takes. Stephen A. almost never, I can't think of any counterintuitive conclusions that he ever reaches. That's not his job on the air. His job is to be the big reactor to a counterintuitive conclusion. Reactor. Just... he's there to hear the crazy conclusion that his partner has come to and actually be the everyman with a loud voice. Like, you are crazy, right? And do it theatrically. So there's a lot of pressure on his partner to come up with a counterintuitive conclusion about everything. Now, how do you do that? well, you're just making it up. You're doing it for TV. No, what you do is you take a topic, and a good producer will start to drill down on the topic and say, okay, so you agree about this. So Mahomes is a great quarterback, but what does he do well and what does he not? And you keep going down until until you get a divergent opinion. Well, actually, I think he is good at this. No, I think he's good. No, actually, the most important player on that, we both think this is going to win. This team's going to win the championship. We both think this is why. Drill down. But no, actually, the key player is, other than the superstar, is this guy. No, it's that guy. Actually, Draymond Green is the second most important player on the Warriors, right? He's actually the pick and roll partner who does all the dirty work.
Victor Wembanyama is the best player in the NBA right now.
There you go. There's a counterintuitive conclusion.
Yeah.
But you keep digging until you get a divergent opinion, and there is your argument. But there was a lot of pressure on that show. Like Stephen A's opinion will not diverge into counterintuitive almost ever. So his big take will be, but he'll deliver it theatrically, is Steph Curry is the greatest shooter that God ever created. Who does not know this?
Yeah.
Everyone knows this. A counterintuitive take would be, actually, you know who the best shooter on the Warriors is? It's Klay Thompson. Because I'm making this up. I don't believe this. I thought it was Steph. But because when you say greatest, you have to talk about high leverage moments too. And I have more confidence in Klay hitting a high leverage moment 3 than I do Steph. Something like that, right?
Right.
That will never happen. So there was pressure on that show for me to keep digging
here's a great
until
one.
you hear something you think is crazy.
This is the perfect example of what you just said. Jalen Brunson is the best Knick of all time.
There you go. Do you believe that?
No.
Okay, then you can't say that.
It's arguable, though.
But you have to keep digging until you find the thing that Bill Simmons thinks is
But
actually
I'm saying
true.
on those shows, if I say that in a production meeting, they're like, that's amazing.
They'll go
that's
nuts. But
segment 2, let's do it.
But you should not say the thing you don't believe. You should stick with, and that's, so the difficulty with me on that show was it was a lot of work to keep digging until I said the thing that I believed that would also get a reaction.
But on top of it, they're telling you Cowboys, Lakers, Knicks, Yankees, like it's all the big teams.
For good reason.
Over and over again. That's the red meat.
You fish where the fish are.
Like right now, the Cowboys having a little run. It's perfect because it's actually reasonable to talk about them. I remember when I was doing Countdown, they're trying to make us lead with the Lakers all the time because that's coming from Bristol.
Of course.
Lead with the Lakers again. It's like, well, can we lead with Memphis? They just traded Rudy Gay and the team's better.
I would tell
a really
you
interesting first act.
Do not lead
They're
with
like,
Memphis.
No, talk about Kobe, Kenny Meg, how high can they get? And then we'd have to do that segment again.
Of course.
And that's kind of the ESPN Red Meat philosophy.
By the way, the first thing I said on First Take that drove everyone nuts was Tom Brady's going to fall off a cliff, right?
I remember that. That made me angry.
Yeah, and the part that I didn't like, and I apologized about it the next day, and they didn't like it on the show when I apologized, was I said he's going to be a bum in short order. But I was just being I was talking the way you talk in a barbershop, right? I didn't really mean I just meant a guy, a jag is what I should have said. But it was just based on every quarterback who ever lived.
Is this a defend your meme?
Yeah. Yeah. I was wrong about that because on every quarterback who ever lived after the age of 40 or 41, they fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
He kept going. The odds were that I was correct in what I was
LeBron
saying.
right now.
Right. They're
odds
redefining
are
stuff.
He's just going to keep getting hurt, have small injuries, and his body's going to break down the way Karl Malone stayed once upon a time.
Correct. But when I said that about Brady, they loved it because that would get traction, right? Because you still remember it 15 years later.
Well, it's what can get cut
later.
into a social media clip, which unfortunately is a lot of the economy of these conversations.
Okay, so this was a pretty interesting conversation. Look, it's no surprise that Stephen A. Smith and Max never had much of a relationship off the air. I think Stephen A. has already mentioned that already. It was mainly strictly business with them. But the behind the scenes of First Take really caught my attention. How they formulate their hot takes and everything, because I know many of you are like me and think these guys are full of BS with their take. More so for a guy like Skip Bayless, who's just full of hot takes. But I like how Max broke down his Tom Brady father time argument, because I remember he was getting roasted for that take after Tom kept performing well beyond the age of 40 and then winning another Super Bowl in Tampa. Anyways, what do you all think about what Max said in this interview?